Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the March 10th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Yeah, and that Substack thing, that's out there too. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast. As always, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, there you can get the Choose Views short versions and long versions and pass those on to people that were busy and couldn't watch the show or listen to the show. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Check out our Heartland Signal digital platform because there's lots of good stuff there. Most definitely make your way over to the platform because, as I always say, because it's important that you guys know, we have so many good things happening there. Heartland Signal X in terms of videos, and then we have our articles that are posted in the writings that we have from our great newsroom. So make sure that you're making your way there. Today's a busy day. This week's a busy week. Today we have Representative Abdel Nasser Rashid, commonly known throughout the group as Nas. He's from the 21st Congressional District. Here. And then Paige Tobin, Education Program Assistant Manager with the Urban Growers Collective. Looking forward to talking to Paige this morning. And Rich Logis in the 7:30 hour, along with Stephania Messina. Rich Logis, if you recall, is the individual that started the group Leaving MAGA. And he will be joined by Stephania Messina, who is an individual that actually left MAGA. So we realized when we had Rich on a few weeks ago that he is a good voice to chat with every now and again about why folks are leaving MAGA and what his group is designed to do to kind of create a bridge from MAGA to not MAGA. So he will be with us, as will Stephania. Paige will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour, and Representative Rashid will be with us at 6:30. So got to keep it moving as always. So with that being said, Dev, let's head over to Choose Views News on this Monday, March 10th, 2025. Why? Because CEO departures surged in January. A record number of CEOs left their companies in January, according to a report from Challenger, Christmas & Gray. The outplacement firm says 222 CEOs stepped down from their post. That's a 14% increase from a year ago, the highest total in 1 month since 2002. That follows a record-breaking 2,221 CEOs that exited in 2024, a high number of turnover happening right now in this economic and political uncertainty period of time. Meaningful advice from on the International Women's Day. Professionals around the world are sharing their top pieces of advice from female mentors and colleagues who've helped shape their careers. While the annual moment is an opportunity to reflect on women's achievements, it's also a chance to highlight the progress to be made. Women make up nearly half the global workforce, but just 1/3 of the roles at VP levels and above, according to new data from LinkedIn. Burnouts, which we're talking about employment, cost U.S. employers millions of dollars. Overworked employees can cost employers millions of dollars, according to a new study published by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. The study found that employee burnout cost American businesses between $4,000 and $21,000 per worker annually in lost productivity and turnover. Additionally, employee disengagement can cost 3.3 to 17.1 times the expense of training per worker. So give folks a little bit of time, a little bit of break, and plan those work shifts a little bit better. Most want daylight savings savings time to end. This is something that's been talked about for a bit. Yesterday's start to daylight savings time is renewing the annual debate over ending the practice for good. More than half, or 54% of Americans support doing away with DST, according to a recent Gallup poll. That's a sharp change from 73% who supported DST in 1999. The last Gallup survey surveyed public opinion on the practice. That's the last time it was surveyed. It was in 1999. Medical experts say standard time promotes better sleep and lowers health risks like heart attacks and workplace accidents. And on the heels of workplace burnout, something to pay attention to. What are your thoughts on it, on daylight savings time?
I'm tired, so no. Get rid of it.
In case you didn't hear that, Devin said he's tired, so get rid of it. All right, I'd like to hear from you guys on that. That's a question of curiosity when we talk today. So if you call in, try to give us your opinions in that. Teens are turning back to Facebook Marketplace. How about this? Facebook's popularity among younger people is declining. According to CNBC, only 32% of U.S. teens use the platform, down from 71% in 2014, according to the Pew Research studies. But many still log in for Facebook Marketplace, which has become, a major success to the parent company Meta. With 1.1 billion users, the resale platform allows members to buy and sell locally without fees. While it doesn't bring in much direct revenue, the advertisers do value how the marketplace engages its users. Book publishers are ditching paperbacks. No, that's not good. Paperback writers, beware. Book publishers are shifting resources towards hardcover and marketing, according to the Wall Street Journal. The move is driven by the growing popularity of ebooks and influence of retailers who benefit from higher margins on hardcovers. New adult nonfiction paperbacks decreased by 42% from 2019 to 2024. It's profoundly demoralizing that a book might have taken 4 years is done in 5 months, said one author. And last but not least, home builders face tariff challenges. And we saw this coming. Home builders are bracing for the impact of the Trump administration's tariffs on Mexican and Canadian imports, as we all know. While some materials, such as lumber, will be exempt for 1 month, the tariffs will likely add up to $10,000 to the overall cost of building a new home, according to the National Association of Home Builders. And that is a number that a lot of people didn't listen to. A number and a fact that a lot of people didn't listen to. We said it was coming, said it would happen. So for those who said it wouldn't happen, and no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to be the effect that China is going to pay the tariffs, and Canada and Mexico are going to pay the tariffs. No, we are. So there you go, guys. A little bit of Choose Views news this morning to kind of get us off to a good start. Like I said, we're going to have some wonderful guests with us this morning. And last week we had a really, really awesome week with the folks that were kind enough to be on the show through the course of the week. And we ended the week with Mayor Brandon Johnson being with us on Friday morning. And some of the feedback from you guys has been very encouraging, that being that he may have gotten off to a slow start as mayor and may have had some challenges that he could have navigated better, and I've said that to him. But he seems to be getting his footing, and some of the commentary that I received, both online and some of the text messages and emails that I received, said that the mayor has been showing a stronger sense of understanding what the citizens of the city of Chicago and the region are really asking for. So hopefully Mayor Johnson can continue in that space and in that direction and even get better. I made this clear unapologetically. I want the mayor to succeed, because if the mayor succeeds, the city of Chicago succeeds. It doesn't fail. I want all of our Democrats who have been elected to succeed. So that starts with here locally with Mayor Johnson, our county officials, our state officials, and of course our governor, lieutenant governor, and governor. And it also expands to our nationally elected officials. And I've got some comments about our nationally elected officials that I'll have to keep pretty tight this morning because of the time that we have with our guest. But part of my platform and my belief system is that they all succeed. And some of that oftentimes is us pushing them. And we saw last week that one of the things that I was critical of, and I will remain that way until I see some change that I think is important change, is that not enough of our messaging last week, and not even messaging, just actions, were not coordinated and were not in unison and a unified message. And I just have to say it that way because that's what we saw. And Democratic voters are begging for that. Excuse me. So it was good to see Mayor Johnson go to Washington along with the other mayors that were there, Democratic mayors, and stand their ground for the good of the citizens of not only their cities but also their states and throughout the rest of the country. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. The number, of course, as always, is 773-763-9278. Let us know about daylight savings time, what you think about it. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Welcome back to Choose Views, Progressive 773-763-9278. So before we went to the break, I was talking about the unified message that's necessary from the, don't take this the wrong way, from the bottom up, from all corners of our Democratic messaging. So we'll start with Mayor Johnson, for example. So whether it's a mayor's message, a county official's message, a governor's message, or a federally elected official's message, it's got to be the same. It's got to be consistent, and it's got to be better coordinated. And we can't have these 10, congressional people splintering off to censure one of their own. I thought that was worse than anything that happened last week with regard to the Dems. They should not have. What was the value of doing that? Just to show more people that there's not that connective message and connective effort. I thought that to me was worse, if you will, than. Some people said the Dems should have all gotten up and left. I still go back to, if you leave this void. If everybody had left, and the thing that wasn't, and to my mind, the coordination was what are we all going to do? And they all obviously sat, and they all obviously were there to present that, to present their placards and signs. I get that. But I'm not going to beat this to death today, only because we have so many other things that we have to cover and stay on top of. But even as Senator Adam Schiff said yesterday that he thought the Democrats should have had a more coordinated response to Trump's speech before Congress, and then he disagreed with the strategy floated by James Carville that Democrats should play dead and let Trump and his party implode. I don't agree with that. There are times when not doing something is a smart move because allows the other side to show how stupid they are. But I think a lack of, as he says, and I'll read from part of what he said on State of the Union. I think a lack of a coordinated response in the State of the Union was a mistake. And frankly, it took the focus off of where it should be, which is on the fact that the president spoke for an hour and 40 minutes and had nothing to say about what he was going to do to bring down the cost for American families that watched a lengthy address, sitting at the kitchen table, hoping that he would offer something to help them afford a new home or pay their rent, afford health care or child care. There was nothing for the American people, and that's where we need to keep our focus. I was just listening to our folks talking about tariffs. These on-again, off-again tariffs are about trade. It's a drug war, but next month it's a trade war. But it's not a drug war. It was incomprehensible. And that's really, the messaging should have been about that. And, to have a coordinated message, you have to have a singular message, or at least a message that is singular in its effort, which is to defang Donald Trump. There has to be coordination. This is where I go back to Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who are the leaders of the minority part of the party, have to They have to be sitting down, talking about what our collective message and effort needs to be. And I've been saying this since shortly after the election. I believe it was shortly after the election. I know it's been since the inauguration, that every single day, the Democratic Party, the Democratic leaders across the board, and I mean, this is what they should be doing. Every day there should be a press conference. And I'm going to say this over and over again because it's so important. But that is every day they should be talking about how awful this administration is. And it can't be just the one-offs. It needs to be, I mean, if it's not, right now, Jasmine Crockett is the voice that's speaking the loudest and in many ways most efficient and effectively. Even that needs to be coordinated, because what is happening when it comes to messaging at this point is there's a lot of sort of situational interviews that are being done. There's a lot of situational catching them when they're walking out of a congressional meeting. There should be more Democrats calling the press conferences, making the statement, setting up the times that they're going to talk, and having a, for lack of better words, a laundry list. So here are the things that happened today. Here are the things that happened this week. And I said this, shortly after the inauguration, and that is Mondays and Fridays. Like today, Devin, the Dems there should be 10, 15, 20 Dems out in front of a mic, all talking about what their plans are for this week. And then Friday, minimally, there should be 10, 20 Dems, 5 from the House and 5 from the Senate, whatever the numbers are, having a conversation with the American public in that's coordinated. That's a regular thing. Because one thing for sure that the mainstream media likes is they like predictability. They can sell that to their audience and to their advertisers. They like that regularity. And then what they're able to do is build on that to show the American people that we have our act together, that we're aware of what's happening. We hear you. So, man, they've got to get their heads around that. They really do. I mean, we know that we've got to call out everything all the time in all ways that Republicans are doing right now. And the best way to do it is in front of a microphone and in front of a camera. What's happening? Here's how it's going to impact you. Here's what we're doing about it. Or what's happening? Here's what we're going to do about it. And here's how that's going to impact you. It's just a simple, three-pronged message. And I think the American people would love that kind of, take charge attitude about the message. Now, to that end, and let me be clear about something, because I know there's some people that brains might be turning on this. I am not saying that the Democrats had a bad message during the election. They did not. They had a great message because our values and our ideas are better. What I am saying in that space is that, and what we can always go back and revisit what could have been done differently, all that sort of stuff. I'm not here to say that. I'm saying right now what they need to do so that we don't have to look back in 6 weeks and go, damn, that's the part where they've got to grab themselves by the collar and say, okay, we got it. And there's so many it's fertile ground. That's the thing that I think is so frustrating for so many people, Devin, is that there's so much fertile ground right now for Democrats to be just grabbing every day, every single day. And, if it were me and I were building an organizational chart and how this is going to happen and who's going to do what, the DNC chair is the person that should have a meeting with Jeffries and Schumer and say, listen, this is what we're hearing on the ground. And here's what I think we can do about it. Because that Ken Martin's got to be hearing this and can't not be hearing it, I would hope. So I'm not saying he's the leading voice of the Democratic Party, but he's the one that has the ability to speak from what the DNC needs to be speaking from and then speaking to. So pull Chuck and Hakeem into a room in the meeting and say, listen, this is what we're hearing on the ground. And I believe strongly that our message has to be daily. And it has to be regular. It has to be consistent. It has to be like that dude in Chicago, Richard Chu, was saying, here's what's going on. Here's what we're going to do about it. And here's how it's going to benefit you. It's a very, very simple approach. It doesn't have to be any more complicated. It doesn't have to get into the weeds on policy and all these sorts of things. It may a little bit when you talk about here's what we're going to do. But the two other pieces, well, here's what's happening and here's how it's going to benefit you, or here's how what we come up with as a fix is going to benefit you. I think that's easy stuff. And so hopefully, these guys and gals are going to hear it and they're going to do something about it, Devin, because that's, there's too many opportunities. It's, there's one thing, we use a sports analogy, and Devin definitely knows what I'm talking about here. There's this thing in sports called, and many people know what it is, so I don't want to disrespect someone's sports analogy, sports knowledge, and that's the unforced error. And then there's also the opportunity to kind of run the table. On messaging right now and on messages and coordinated effort, the Dems have an opportunity to kind of run the table in many ways. And don't think I'm crazy. I know that the mainstream media is going to, have their part. But I also believe strongly that if the Dems consistently, repeatedly, daily put out those 3 points, here's what's going on with the Republicans, here's what we're going to do about it, and here's how it's going to benefit you. And they do that. That's going to become the message of the day that so many people are just begging for. And, I really do believe that in my heart, that's what has to happen. It's a big part of what has to happen. It's not the only thing, but it's a big part of it. So fingers crossed that will be where we head, and that they can grab themselves by the collar and make this effort. I've got my fingers crossed on that. We do have some clips that we're going to play for you guys if we get a chance a little bit later in the show from one of our representatives, Quigley, and there's another one on Medicaid that we might make our way over to, and then our good friend David Jolly, who speaks about the destruction from within that you guys may want to hear. So we'll probably get to those at some point during the show. But for now, Devin, let's take a quick break, because after that, we've got a conversation with Representative Abdinaza Rashid. Will be with us this morning, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back, progressives, to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So, Devin, we got a couple of people who've responded. Lois says, daylight savings time is awesome. I can't drive after it's dark, and I love the fact that it stays lighter at a later time of the day. I'm with you on that, Lois. I would agree. And let's see what we got here. Nancy says, I'm sorry, that was Nancy. My bad. Lois says, just know if daylight savings time goes away, the sun will be up at 4 a.m. mid-June. Good for people leaving late closing bars, and the sun will be setting earlier and will be darker sooner. People don't like to change, but if it's daylight savings time year round, there would be no change. The change is no different than if you travel to a different time zone. I love having a lighter later. Seems safer to be out. I'm with Lois and Nancy. So kudos to both of you for sending in your thoughts on that. I like it, honestly. I'm at the old spring. What is it? Spring forward, fall back, spring ahead. I like it because I like the day having that longer feel. That in the first day, like today, Devin and I are in here looking at each other like, okay, let's keep smiling at each other so we keep each other awake and going and moving forward. Okay, that first day is a little, I got to adjust. But I personally do like the longer day. I looked up yesterday and it was like 7:10 and it was still, light enough out. So I'm kind of down with that. The more, and I'm here. Devin's here. We're kind of by what we do. We're morning people to some extent. Devin's an all day person. This dude puts in some serious time, as do all of our engineers here. But I'm okay with it. It's something that I always kind of go, okay, cool. Now the day is going to be longer. We got more stuff to do. There you go. So that's the first two responses, and I know there's going to be more coming. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it. All right, let's see what else did we just get this morning. I got to read it first before I read it on the air, so I don't say something I shouldn't say. Hey, Devin, let's while we're waiting for our guest, why don't we go to a couple of clips that I want folks to hear, and let's start with the one from Quigley on Russia.
We promised Ukraine that we would stand with them against Russia. And then to see him on that couch next to J.D. Vance while they ambushed President Zelensky. I mean, what upside down world are we living in, sir?
Well, let me put that into a larger context of why people should care so much. First, we all want peace. And I've been to Ukraine 4 times since the war has started and seen the utter devastation. And, they're facing a force 4 times larger than they are. They weren't expected to last 3 days, never mind 3 years. But, you don't want a peace where Russia wins, right? The extraordinary number of war crimes that they have committed, 93% of their attacks are on civilian targets. So what you saw there was in the vote with the United Nations and, cutting off aid, including intelligence, you're seeing a new world order. You're seeing we are a fundamentally different country than we were a few weeks ago, unrecognizable to our allies, if we have allies. And I think as a result, we're fundamentally alone, therefore less safe. And it's important to couple this with cutting off aid to USAID, the humanitarian branch of who we are to the rest of the world. That was as bad or worse because it's disconnected us with the world, and I think we're siding with the bad guys, and we've lost a lot of our soul.
So my response to that, or my observation of that, is yes, and then some. Politically, we certainly have isolated ourselves, and we have definitely changed from that perspective politically. I don't think that I know that a majority of Americans don't feel as though we've changed as a country for the everyday folks. And let me make sure I really slice this the right way. How do I want you guys to hear this? Politically, when I say politically, I mean because of the administration, we are now being represented by people who have no soul, that have no. I mean, and here's why what Quigley said is so important. The visual. Marco Rubio. Now I know that there's stills don't always speak to what actually was taking place. A still freezes something in time. So, but that picture of him where he did look like he was sinking into the sofa was very, very representative of a weak, not only weak administration, but the minions that follow, Trump and Vance. So we have fallen down significantly in that space. There's no question about it. You won't hear me say anything different about that. Our administration is run by a bunch of on ketamine, and that's a fact. It's not something that's anecdotal. On ketamine, on makeup, on Doge Boy mentality, and then following those are people who are feckless and unwilling to speak up. So on a world stage, that's perceived as the weakness that's attractive to Putin. Okay, so in this conversation around Ukraine, that's how the world is seeing us, seeing the leadership. The other part of this is the world is wondering what's happened to our citizenry and to those who are the voters, the people who are supposedly the ones that make the difference and make a change, can by voting can make a change. And I think the world is seeing that, not so much that it's lost its soul, but as very disconnected to a successful future. So that part there is where I feel like we've really gone is that our leadership is so weak right now and so willing to bend and so compromised that that's really the representation that that's what the world is seeing of the United States right now. And again, I wanted to make sure I said that so that, we're separating. I don't see that the country as a whole and the citizens are weak. Half of the country is definitely out there on its own island of cultism. But then the other side is standing strong. And those are the progressive liberal democratic voters who want to see more from our democratically elected Democrats. And I received a text that I'll read to you guys that I think does represent this. People like Raskin and Jeffries have been promising frequent messaging by Democratic leaders for at least a month. What can we as constituents do to get them to do this? I would say Raskin and Schumer have certainly been saying that. I'm sorry, not Raskin. I would say that Jeffries and Schumer have been saying that. But to answer the question, what can we do to get them to do this? I think it's as simple as, and it has to be with some repetition, contacting their offices. As much as we saw the impact of contacting Republican offices. So I think that we have to be willing to contact the elected officials on our quote unquote side with the same amount of vim and vigor, which is, hey, you guys need to do X, Y, and Z. So how do we get them to have that frequent messaging, frequently being in Richard's mind, Mondays and Fridays at a minimum, collective, frequent, messaging, Mondays and Fridays, is to make the phone calls, is to send the emails, is to make sure that the people who are our elected officials know that this is unacceptable. So, and I know that sometimes you think, well, but that's not working. We have to keep doing it. I mean, versus what? I mean, because not everybody can go out and can protest, and not everybody necessarily should by going out physically into the streets to protest. When you can, you should. However, this phone calling and emailing, I believe, is a powerful tool. And sit down as you sit down to type out something on your computer. Sit down and type out a letter and send it to your congressional leaders in your district, wherever you are in the country. And if you're in a red district, do the same thing. You voted for the blue candidate, but you're a red candidate won. Send a letter to them as well. That's what we have as constituents to get them to do this, is to make sure that we're emailing, that we're texting when opportune, and we are sending letters. Not doing that, again, it cedes a little bit of territory. And listen, guys, I know that oftentimes, by design, I will speak to our participation in this. At the same time, I speak to the frustration that I know so many of us feel with the people that we've elected. I hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear. And we still have to do the work. We still have to do the work. And I'll put it in the vein of any of us trying to maintain our health. I'm not going to say something like losing weight, but maintaining our health. If we don't maintain our health, it's harder to, it's easier to maintain than it is to get back. And then we're kind of in a get back stage right now. So I will put it in that vein because, if we lost some space, we lost some territory, we lost some ground. But I think right now we have to do a little bit of extra work to get some of that back. And it does require a unified message from our leaders, and I think it requires a unified effort from us as constituents. And that unified message allows us to then be able to know that, in a unified effort allows us to know that we will get back that territory. We'll get back that space. That's how I'm seeing it right now. And I know that a lot of people are probably going, Richard, you're crazy. We're working as hard as we can. I know that. I get it. I hear it. I feel it. I truly do. And so that's why I keep pushing and pushing and pushing in this space. We have to push our constituents. We have some tools in front of us as I tie this up. Those are phone calls, those are emails, those are text messages, those are letters. And no one's giving us the singular message of what we should be saying to our elected officials. So I will. The singular message is we have to keep fighting. The singular message is we have to be strong. The singular message is that we want to see you as our elected officials do more, speak to things more regularly and more frequently, and we need it now. That's from the constituents' perspective. That's the singular message. More, stronger, faster, now. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. If you can embrace that as a constituent anywhere in the country, and I'm my call to all of us, and I want to say all of you to make it sound like I'm finger pointing, but to all of us, is to embrace that part of it. That's what we have. And when I've said this a number of times in the weeks leading up to the election and since the election, and most certainly since the inauguration, the division is what will allow them to win. Division is what will allow them to win. Singular belief and message with a singular end goal, which is to take back. And you can define take back all you want. Take back the White House, take back the Supreme Court, take back the House of Representatives and the Senate on a federal level, take back state legislatures. That's our singular effort, is to take back the ground that we've ceded. And so that's why I keep coming back to do these basic things. These are basic things, guys. It's not going to necessarily cost you any money. A few stamps. Sure, if you're sending letters, but those phone calls and those emails and those texts are what we as constituents can do. So I want to give a shout out to Diane and Paula, who sent me this text asking, Richard, what can we do to get the frequent messaging by the Democratic leaders happening? And this is what I believe is one of the tools that we have in our toolkit. It is the tool. Quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to Choose Views. So, yeah, the thoughts are in about daylight savings time. We have a couple folks that are great with it and others who are navigating their way through it. So I think one of the factors that can impact it is where we live in the country and, of course, our chronological age will also impact how you view daylight savings time. But there we are. All right, Devin, let's grab a quick call this morning. Good to our good friend Karen from Chicago. Good morning, Karen. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Are you suggesting that I'm old? Because I feel like I got hit by a truck this weekend. It's killing me, this daylight savings time.
I said chronological age. I didn't say old, folks. I'm older than you are, so come on now. It's killing you, though? Why is it killing you?
Yeah, well, it was a busy weekend for a number of reasons, but all good, really good reasons. But work got super busy for me this weekend, so that is good. That is good.
That's right.
Anyway, but it's like 0 to 80 though. It's like, what happened? Hold on.
Well, you know, we get what we pray for and ask for the universe. And,
listen, I manifested this.
That's right. So don't fight the funk. When you get what you want, when we get what we want, guys, listen to me for a second. When we get what we want, do not spit at it, because that's what we asked for. So let's be honest with ourselves. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. We just have to put that. We just have to put that on more people to get them involved in the process. So
that's right. Ain't no fighting the funk. That's for sure.
Right.
So anyway, I want to say I totally agree with you. You know, obviously Democrats need to have a unified message, and because we do cede the space. And look, if the Republicans can do it, We're way smarter than the Republicans. The Democrats can do it. And, you know, it's very true because we do see the space, you know, when the way we are viewed internationally. I think that what is happening in Ukraine, they are expected to win this. And so, but what we have effectively done is expose to the rest of the world that you guys can go on without us, that we are not as needed or necessary as we have been led to believe that we are. Yeah. That's what and in every space, in climate, obviously, it will have an impact if we are throwing out all of our environmental protections. That will definitely have an impact globally. But there are so many other areas, in the financial space. Other countries are going to step in and fill that space when you have coalitions being built around the collapse of our American democracy and our leadership and our feckless leadership. And it's just being exposed in such a rapid way right now that there's going to be no denying it. And the rest of the world sees this.
And what's interesting, too, to that point, Karen, and it has been, so much has been exposed. It was coming. We could see it. We saw it in his previous term. And what's a significant shift that so many people just couldn't pay attention to because of their bias is how our international reputation and respect was almost regained overnight from President Biden's win in 2020. It was almost overnight where the world went, okay, thank goodness. They took a deep breath and a sigh. And so now what we're seeing is that many of our allies, it's very simple. Our allies are pulling up the rug and going, you know what, we got to protect ourselves. And our non-allies, I'm not going to say our enemies necessarily, but our non-allies are going, oh, there's blood in the water. Because they don't see Trump. I'm telling all of you maggots, and I say that all the MAGAs out there, and all of the weak A Republicans that are out there. If you're insulted by this, then you need to look in the mirror. What the United States is not showing is strength right now on a federal political level. This is not strength, guys. This is blood. This is blood in the water. Our non-allies, they see it. Trust me, anybody that voted for Trump, anybody that's still hanging in with MAGA, anybody that's a center-right, calling themselves moderate Republican that voted for Trump, any of you union boys and girls who voted for Trump anywhere in the country, here in Illinois particularly, and the rest of the country, any of you all, any of the folks that are in that mindset that just couldn't vote for Kamala Harris, this is not strength. This is blood in the water.
Yeah, and look, and you see, and so so the cheese stands alone because they're building coalitions. Our allies are rallying around Ukraine, and they're rallying together, and they're not going to be sharing intel with us. Okay, valuable intel to prevent a 9/11 style attack on this country. Okay, we are pissing off our foreign adversary, some of our foreign adversaries, but you're right. Russia, they are just, loving every moment of this. Because here's the thing, we're not even partners with them. We're not partners. We are useful idiots. Yep. We are an asset to Russia and Vladimir Putin. And so that is what we need to, understand about this moment. We are standing alone in the world. You cannot, despite what you have been told by the Republicans, by Donald Trump, you guys have been receiving parroted information from our adversaries like Vladimir Putin. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. So when you're losing your Social Security, there is a great video that was put out by Vote Vets, this vet from Illinois who was standing up there with Hakeem Jeffries talking about what these cuts to the VA are doing, to veterans that rely on it for their PTSD, for their medical care, for their support for their families. They give it all for this country. They give it all fighting for everything that we say that we stand for. And they're being betrayed right now by Donald Trump and the Republicans.
Specifically Donald Trump, but more generally, and this is the part that really frustrates me, is that for such a long time, the Republican Party has sort of taken over the mindset that the military is Republican and Republicans are the military. But they're the ones. So guys, please understand this. Those are the ones. That's the party that's causing you the most hell right now. It's the Republican Party. It's the Republicans that are not the Republican elected officials that are not standing up and saying, no, Donald Trump, we're not going to let you tear down what's important to our military families. We're not going to let you do that. So, because, Trump could be walking down the hallway and someone could say, oh, by the way, let's call out Devin in Chicago. And it's the last thing he heard before he gets in front of a mic. And he says that. He's so transactionally, situationally motivated. The Republican leaders who've been elected, they know better. They have data. They should. No. You know what? Okay. They should. They know better, Karen. You and I both know. We're both being kind. They know better. They're just not doing better. They know better. They're just not doing better. And so that's the part that's so that should be so highlighted. To your point earlier about our allies, these are that's the party, and those are the people who are not stepping up to put the guardrails on this guy. And they have the ability to do it. They just won't do it.
Sure. Well, and I think about people like Lindsey Graham, and I think about people like Joni Ernst. I'm going to say that the Marjorie Taylor Greens, they should know better, but I think that unfortunately there is a percentage, and I don't even think it's a majority of Republicans. But there is a percentage of Republican leadership right now, some of the loudest voices in the room, that are full on MAGA. And they have fallen for the okie doke all this time. Those people. Do you think, Karen,
that they may at some point that this is who they've been always, and now they just have a vessel? Okay.
Yes, that's what I think about those. So I do think that there's a difference. But I think people like Joni Ernst, I think that Lindsey Graham, I think that any of these quote unquote establishment Republicans that are running around, doing the bidding and just be keeping quiet or whatever, they definitely know better. Yeah. They definitely know better. They have benefited from it. And, and it just speaks to, Richard, to how deeply ingrained the racism is in this country, and the fact that the Republican Party has so effectively been able to use non-Christian messaging, very un-Jesus-like messaging, through dog whistles, and xenophobia and homophobia, to get their base to vote against the majority of their base to vote against their own best interests. And so that, we're still up against that. That is not going to go away. And I fear that it's not even going to go away, despite the fact that people are losing their benefits, their earned benefits, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Are they going to, that's the big question. Are they going to be able to connect the dots? And like the farmers, it really annoys me listening to some of these farmers that are literally losing the farm, and they're like, they don't regret their vote for Trump.
Yeah,
some of them. I'm not saying all of them. That's just what the hell are you doing?
I'm not even going to try to say anything on top of that because we got to go to this break. But Karen, no, that's a super point about, are they going to learn? And we have to hope that they do. So great to hear from you this morning. And I did not say you were old at all. I did not go there. Don't put that on me.
All right.
Good to hear your voice. Have a great day today.
Good to hear you. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Be well.
I didn't call anybody old. I just said that, we have to be mindful of, that some people who are of age may receive may be impacted by daylight savings time a little bit differently. So there you go. But good to hear from Karen this morning. She's fired up, as we all should be. This is not tiddlywinks, guys. This is serious business. So to our text from earlier, what do we need? What do we do as constituents? And my best of best, I will say, we have to make the phone calls. We have to do that work. That stuff is easy, relatively speaking. No disrespect. So Diane and Paula, thank you for your text this morning. They sent me another cool one on some math about what the Dems should be doing. And I'll talk about this maybe on the backside of the break. But for now, let's go to a quick break, Devin. It's top of the hour. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Welcome back, progressives, to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. We'll get your calls as we go through this segment of the show. Making your way over to Heartland Signal is a good thing for the soul. And although this is not meant to be necessarily a promotion of Heartland Signal, it is to let you know that that you've got to go there. It's a big part of our platform, heartlandsignal.com. And that's where we have some great clips and most definitely articles that are posted there. And I'll just give you a couple of items that you want to take a peek at. One of the Michigan Republican congressmen said he would prefer if people stopped calling his office. Okay, then we should stop calling his office, right, Deb? Don't call this particular in any of the Republicans' offices about any of the lack of showing at the town halls. Don't do that. But we've got a great article over at heartlandsignal.com speaking to that. And another good article, and also I think there's video with this as well. Had a difficult time kind of pulling through this. But the potential GOP Senate candidate deleted a pro-Nikki Haley post. That one will make you laugh. There's a Wisconsin state senator. Her name is Kelda Roys. She's a Democrat. And she really, really gives it to the Republicans. We do have this clip, but we can't for some reason get this one up and running. That might be my fault. But she slams the GOP for refusing to negotiate on gun control legislation. Quote, "I don't know how many dead kids we need for Republicans in this building to start caring about that and prioritizing their lives," that meaning the lives of the children, "and their safety over their own political futures and careers." Great piece there. So we've got so much for you guys to pull, and as I say at the top of the show, to pull and to share and to make sure that the people that you care about have a source and place to go. As I said at the beginning of the show, we would have one of our great guests this morning from the Urban Growers Collective, and that would be none other than the Education Program Assistant Manager at Urban Growers Collective, Paige Tobin. Good morning, Paige, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. How you doing?
I'm good. Why did you chuckle? Are you nervous?
I'm a little nervous, but it's great. Way to start out the morning. I tuned into your show earlier when you first started today, and it's just so great to hear your perspective and really be a part of the storytelling this morning.
Absolutely. Well, many of you guys don't know, and may not know, I should say, about the Urban Growers Collective and what the Urban Growers Collective is all about. And, we wanted to feature Paige during Black History Month. But since we are in the mode of women and women just knocking it out of the park, Paige is one of those ladies, one of those women. So what I'd like to do, Paige, is just take a moment and share with the audience a little bit about you, but also about the Urban Growers Collective and what it's all about and why it's such an important organization right now in our society.
Absolutely. I think something to even note right here at the top is that Black History happens not only in February, but every month.
Black History.
So we're just happy.
Black History is every day of the week. Sorry, go ahead,
every
Paige.
day of And so just to amplify that, and, Urban Growers Collective is such a unique organization. We're Black woman-led and owned nonprofit farms here in Chicago, Illinois. Part of our mission is to use food as our tool of change. So really working to build a more just, equitable food system here in Chicago that, sends out those ripples, not just to, people in our neighborhood, people in the city, but can be really a map for what we can do nationally, internationally to really increase people's access to fresh local food, especially focusing on underserved areas that are close to you. And so, that's a little bit about what we do. As far as my role in that and kind of carrying through our mission is using the lessons of how food even comes to be in productive spaces, how we're connected to a long history of food justice advocates across time and space. I work with our youth. We work with After School Matters, and so I have students 14 to 19 that we're engaging with, and they're getting paid to learn about a lot of these things, and that's a really exciting aspect of the work that I do. And then we also have an internship program too, where we're bringing people in to really see what the field looks like, who's in it, what are they doing, and connecting them with our ecosystem partners. But we're really looking at a lot of different angles as far as how to get to that root of how we can see and understand food as a way that, we understand that it's not going to be the end all be all of making change in this world. But what we do know is that if you're hungry, if you do not have access to food that is good for you, that will support you in your long-term health, that you can't make that change. You can't take those steps. And so that's really the purpose of the work that we're doing here in Chicago.
Promoting health and economic development, healing, and creativity through urban agriculture. So let's talk about those very, very powerful words in alignment with what you said about food availability. So one of our guests and now becoming a contributor is a gentleman named Dan Summons, who is the managing director for a group called Blessings in a Backpack. And I'm going to make the connection here in a moment to what you're doing. Blessings in a Backpack's primary objective on a national level, and Danzy, MD here in Chicago, is to make sure that children don't go home hungry on the weekends, making sure that they have food, some sustenance for them to get through the weekend and then be able to come back Monday to be able to be a productive student. You and I both know, I'm a few years older than you, but we all know from common sense and life experience that if our children don't have sustenance, it's hard for them to learn. And so his effort is to make sure that we are feeding our children all the time, but particularly on the weekends. With your work and the effort that you put in, how do you see, or not so much how do you see, Paige, but what do you see is an opportunity for urban growers to affect that, i.e. children having food, period, but particularly when it comes to things like what Dan is doing? How do you see urban growers being able to have an impact on that or in that space?
Absolutely. Oh, gosh. Can we even unpack that in the 50,
Sorry, I brought
minutes?
a big old piece of luggage on that one, but I made my note. I was looking at my notes yesterday, going, I've got to tie this to Dan and what he's doing. At the end of the day, I'll say it. Well, let me shut up and let you unpack it. I'll listen. Sorry about that, Paige.
No, I'll take my best stab at it. And, I think it's so awesome to highlight the amazing work that is happening in Chicago. We are not the only people that are noticing, seeing, and then actively trying to create and carve out spaces for people to increase their access, to get educated, all of that. I think that the unique lens that we bring to it is really just the transference of those practical skills to community members here in Chicago. I hate to bring in old adages here, but it's the teach a man to fish, you give him something, he'll eat for the day. However, if you teach someone those skills of how to sustainably, go back to the basics of how to produce your own food, you create situations where people are able to be empowered through choice. And so I think that the way that we're going about it is really interesting in that we're providing, increased opportunities for people to join community gardens. They can make those choices to grow what they will within that 10 by 10 plot that we have at our South Chicago farm, for example, at our Jackson Park community farm. We are engaging people at the level of just one-to-one education. So we have apprentices who come through learning the skills of growing, learning the skills of herbalism, how to heal your community through the use of plants. And then, providing those chances too for people, regardless of age as well, that as an adult, whether I am, up there in my wisdom to very, very young we have some budding grower volunteer experiences for families, that you can engage with us at those different levels and collect that knowledge along the way. And so, we really don't want to be a Band-Aid solution in this world. That we want to provide situations and opportunities for people that are long-ranging, and that we have that view and have been carrying that out for, Urban Growers Collective has been around since about 2017, but we have roots that are longer and stronger than that too, through some of our work done under the name of Growing Power. Our CEO's father is Will Allen, who is still going strong with doing composting work and, really trying to make sure that skills are provided and encouraged in various communities. And so that history is long ranging, and that we want to continue in that work and in that vein.
One of the ways that you're continuing it actually is through your internship program, which you spoke on briefly, but tell our listeners a little bit more about the internship program. I mean, your first one is kicking off in early April. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we have a pretty cool internship program. We, this is a program for folks 18 and up that are looking for hands-on practical experience in the field of urban agriculture. And it's an opportunity for folks to engage with us as continuing education, say you're in college, university, and, this is something that is going to support you along the way. But this is also an opportunity for folks that are just looking for a change, that are looking to gain experience and who have passion and are learning, on their own time and want to switch it up and see what works. So what's really exciting about the internship program is, we've got folks in basically mirroring our staff schedules and, seeing what it is to activate and start a farm, seeing what it is to start something from seed, and then getting to the point where you've maintained it so well that you can harvest it. And then you can even take it home from there. Our internship program too, allows students and our participants and learners to, see how we engage with our community as well. While this is a production-oriented internship and you're really seeing what that looks like in the city, we have awesome opportunities and such a powerful community that we work with as well to highlight, that do awesome events and get people engaged through fun as well with food.
Well, here's an interesting thing, and I always try to make the connections from one thing to the next in terms of the dotted lines. And these are more my words. Mayor Johnson speaks about the impact of some of the jobs programs that he's been fighting for and implementing through his administration. And I put it in this vernacular: when our young folks have something to do, they're not doing something they shouldn't be doing. And this, I see a connection in terms of that, in terms of as younger folks are drawn to agriculture or drawn to growing or drawn to the work that you guys are doing at Urban Growers Collective. It seems as though that's an opportunity to help younger folks, our kids, and then young adults be doing something that's not only super productive, but also has a return to their betterment. Do you get the point that I'm making there?
Yeah, I think you're right on the nose there, Richard. Like, you know, the more opportunities that we can provide folks to interrupt cycles, you know, whether that be cycles of violence or cycles of disengagement or cycles of just disconnection, that's what urban agriculture allows us to do here in Chicago. You know, it's a place of connection. So many of the students that I work with, you know, from the high school ages to this internship, are really seeking connection and want to, you know, dream of a future too. You know, I appreciate what you're mentioning of just like wanting to, you know, provide space at alternate spaces and all of that. And I think that's something that we do. But I also like want to shine a light too on that choice that people make to engage with us, and that so many young people in this city see and know that they are dreaming and wanting a future that looks different. And places like Urban Growers Collective can support them on that journey to figuring out exactly what that means.
Yeah, and historically in the Black community, African American community, and so many others, I'm not taking away from any other community, our Latino brothers and sisters, our Asian brothers and sisters, our Caucasian brothers and sisters, we've all, part of our society in the United States, have come from some form of agrarian work. But one of the things that's a conversation right now is a number of Black farmers that are have been for all of my lifetime. I mean, my family, both sides, understood farming and understood the importance of it. Out of force at one point, shortly after enslavement and through Jim Crow, and then into the furthering of the country in the 20th century. But that's been a part of our community as Black folks for a long, long, long time. And now it seems like this sort of, you know, you guys have recaptured that, and you've got 8 urban farms in the Chicagoland area. That's phenomenal. And talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, what you're speaking to too is the experience of so many of the farmers that I work and collaborate with, and too is reflected in the story of our CEO, Erica Allen. And I think that's a really unique work that we do is partly too of uncovering histories, uncovering stories of people's connection to those spaces. And then none of us are divorced from the context of agriculture, no matter how, you know, systems work to try and create that level of disconnection where you don't even know what is happening as far as like how food gets to your grocery store, or how does that end up in your neighborhood versus another. And so the work that we're doing relating to that is, oh man, Richard, there's just so many ways that we can answer this question.
Sorry about that. I mean,
we're such a long history, you know, and we're not a singular voice either. We're a collective, and so I appreciate the opportunity to speak on so many different ways that our work operates here in the city. But, you know, this is such a fabulous way for us to highlight our work, in that there's no singular answer. There's no singular way that this work and methodology is operated in the city. And so those stories become apparent in how people engage with us, whether you're coming into it, you know, as a staff member with a long and storied history of experience in agriculture, or if you're someone that's, you know, this is all new to me, and, you know, I'm figuring out how I want to be connected and who I am in connection to these
different areas. Yeah. Let me, as we wrap up, let me ask you this question, Paige, and with the internships that you guys coming about, we're going to definitely want to have you back as we get closer to the next ones that you have starting. But as we wrap up, talk a little bit about your bus, your fresh is it Fresh Moves Market bus that you guys have. Talk a little bit about that. That's really kind of exciting.
Yeah, you are totally right. We have so many different ways that we're creating access in the city. And so we've got this really special program called the Fresh Moves Mobile Bus, which is basically just a moving market around the city of Chicago where we can sell, directly to consumer a lot of the, produce and items that we're growing directly on the farm. So our farmers are getting that experience of of creating their own marketplaces and then, physically bringing that food to neighbors, mostly on the south and west side. And that program will be starting up fairly soon. Again, we usually take a little bit of a break in the wintertime as things slow down. But coming this spring, we'll be starting up again and are normally in partnership with local health centers, retirement homes, so on and so forth, to really get that good, nutritious food direct to folks that, really need it and are mostly, or are very, specifically configured into this idea of, who gets access to what.
Access to what, yeah. So, Paige, let our listeners, and thank you so much for being with us this morning. Let our listeners know how they can follow you, how they can get involved, if there's volunteer opportunities. I'd like to do this with every guest that we have on so that people know how to reach out to you and how they can get plugged in to the collective.
Yeah. And again, there's just so many different ways that you can plug in with us. So I definitely recommend that you go to www.urbangrowerscollective.org, and you can really kind of cruise around our page and see what's what. If you're looking for an internship, please head to our careers page and apply there. We have spring, summer, and fall sessions. If you're a young person between the ages of 14 and 19 and you really want to get involved in our After School Matters programming, go directly to After School Matters site to apply through there. Or if you're a continuing learner, an adult that really just wants to get their hands dirty and see, what's what, we also offer volunteer opportunities for individuals and families, mostly on the weekends, Saturdays, starting as early as this coming April. Those come out through our newsletter, so sign up on our website as well to get those notifications of when things come out. But we really hope that, Richard, if you want to come out someday and see what we're all about.
Hey, Paige, I can garden now. I grew up with a 12-row garden in our backyard, so I think I know what I'm doing there. So,
okay.
We'll have to partner. That would be fun, and let's stay in contact about that very subject. I will make my way out, and we'll do something. So that'll be cool. But it's been great having you with us this morning, and I appreciate you taking the time to let us know about the collective, Urban Growers Collective, guys. Paige Tobin, who is the program manager for that effort here in Chicago. Check them out by going to their website. And Paige, once again, thank you for being on the show this morning.
Of course. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
I will. You too, Kate. Take care now, Paige. Bye now.
Bye.
Yeah, guys, get out and grow your own stuff. It's a local. The importance of that in my mind right now is it gives our youth an opportunity to get involved in something that they may not necessarily have thought is a way for them to learn more about growing, about community, and most definitely a career path. Frankly, it's something that definitely can take advantage of. All right. Wow. Time goes by so quickly. All right. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, guys, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Welcome back, Progressive, to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Good to have, excuse me, I hate when that happens. Good to have Paige with us this morning. Sorry about coughing like that, guys. It just snuck up on me. Check out the Urban Growers Collective. I think it'll really be informative for you and something to pass on if you have teenage children or nieces and nephews that are looking for something like that in the city of Chicago. good program. Before we went to break, I got a text that I got to read to you guys. This is just a great one. It says we need a running weekly tally of taxpayers' dollars wasted on golf. $2 million each time. Super Bowl, $20 million. This excludes the NASCAR, which I think was $15 million. So far, about $60 million wasted. Get this on Doge. $60 million, $160,000 average government worker salary. Yeah, that's exact. So the point that's been made here in this text is goes back to what I said about daily information from and what the Republicans at the GOP, what MAGA's doing to affect negatively the community, and what Doge is doing to affect negatively the overall community. That's the messaging, part of the messaging that Dems need to be taking on, not sitting back, but daily coming out and saying, here's what they're doing, here's what we're going to do, and here's how this is going to benefit you as we go forward. To me, that's a very simple message to go forward. Speaking of MAGA, we had this gentleman on a few weeks ago to talk about a word, a phrase, a statement, but a group that he's put together. It's the founder of Leaving MAGA, and that would be none other than Rich Logis, who's joining us this morning. Along with Rich is, I don't know if I want to say a member, but certainly one who made the change, who actually left MAGA, Stephania Messina. Welcome to both of you to the show this morning.
Hey, Richard. Good morning. Good to be with you again.
Good to be with you, Rich. Glad you're doing well. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes. Good morning. Good to be with you.
Good morning. Glad you're with us. So, Rich, good to be with you again. Glad you're with us. And I tell you that after the last time you were on the show, there were so many people on social media that were like, wait a minute, you two guys are connected and talking and working together and all that good stuff. And it was just kind of funny. I mean, you probably saw some of that as well. Like, hey, whoa, wait a minute. So take a moment, Rich. So for those who weren't able to hear you when you were on last time, and for those who want to know more about you right out of the gate, let's talk about you. Let's talk about leaving MAGA as a group, and then let's talk a little bit about Stephanie's journey.
Well, I want to thank Stefania also for being with us today. She is one of Leaving MAGA's leaders, and for those who are meeting me for the first time here on the airwaves, I was someone who was more than just a partisan Trump voter. I was a MAGA activist. I wrote part of the call script for the campaign. I was a volunteer. I was a MAGA pundit with MAGA Friendly Media, and it was in the summer of 2021 when I started to question my belief system and my support for Trump, MAGA, and my governor, Ron DeSantis. And over the course of that year, I had to struggle with the reality that I had been wrong about so many of my beliefs and my convictions. And two of the reasons that it was so difficult to walk away, Richard, was, number one, that acknowledgement that I had created a genuine but mistaken public persona based in MAGA lies and falsehoods. And second, that it's really difficult to walk away from a community. And that's what MAGA is. MAGA is a community. And last year I founded Leaving MAGA as a new community for people who leave, for people who are having some doubts about their support for the president, and also for friends and family of those who are still in the thrall of MAGA. We have an ebook which is free, no strings attached, at our site, leavingmaga.org. And in that book, I include a blueprint on how friends and family can look to rejuvenate their relationships that they had pre-Trump with those closest to them. So I founded Leaving MAGA as a new destination because I believe, Richard, that even for someone who might want to leave MAGA, if they don't have a place to go on an exit and off-ramp, they will most likely not leave MAGA and will stay even though they know they should not.
Wow, that's so profound. And I want to come back to something that you said here today, and you said it before. Though I supported Trump and MAGA for what I thought were the right reasons, I was wrong, and will work as long as necessary to make amends. One of the big comments that I get or let me not say comments, but one of the areas of conversation that I get often is when someone is finally awakened, if you will, someone kind of realizes that they thought they were part of MAGA for the right reasons. They thought they were following Trump for the right reason. Then they realized that they were wrong. This is for folks who don't understand the psychological part of this and the emotional part of this. It can be a process for a lot of people because it's all about, and I said this to you before, you created a bridge for people that don't know where to go when they finally do decide, hey, I got to get away from this. If they don't have a place to go, then they'll stay where they are. And it's sort of like a boat that if it doesn't know where to sail next to, it's probably not just going to jump out in open water. It's going to stay moored attached to the port that it's at. So what you're doing is giving people a bridge. And one of the things that I believe so many people have to do that are leaving MAGA is that they have to not only admit that they were wrong, but they also have to, in many ways, make amends to the people that have been harmed by their decisions. And that's where your blueprint seems to come in to kind of to assist in that process. Is that correct?
Yes, it is exactly right. And while leaving MAGA does not have any kind of ideological purity test, to really fully leave and to sever oneself from MAGA, one must take responsibility for any past actions and rhetoric that may have hurt others. And while I don't defend any ignorance myself or others, Richard, I will say that I do believe deep down that most MAGA Americans are good people, but I believe that they have had their normal and natural fears and concerns, which all of us share. I believe they've had them exploited and manipulated, and they've been led astray by the president and the Republican Party. And I would stress to listeners that I think GOP and MAGA are interchangeable. When I was in MAGA, it was a fantasy of ours to kill the Republican Party and supplant it with the MAGA Party. And that, unfortunately, has been achieved.
Do you think, Rich, and this is a question that's come up to me or been presented to me, when you say that many people were deceived, they were misled and all those things, do you think they were predisposed because of their bias already to go in that direction? I mean, this is to put it in not soft language, a racist that's been raised to be a racist or a sexist that's been raised to be a sexist just needs to be tapped on the shoulder, i.e. tricked by the president and the GOP, and away they go. So there's got to be some predisposition there already, right?
I think that is applicable to some, but I think there are more, Richard, who have been conditioned to believe over the course of many, many years of Republican and right-wing lies that liberalism is the source of our personal and national ills. And in addition to liberalism and liberal democracy, that I think so many have had their beliefs shaped into thinking that. And if one thinks that, then it's very easy to, over time, believe that something other than democracy is a way and democratic process is a way of resolving our disputes. So there's no question that, like any group, there are some bad people in it, but I think it runs deeper than that. And I think that what we see with MAGA is living proof that over time lies work, and the president is not some kind of propagandist mastermind. What he is shameless, and there's never been I think it's accurate to say, in my view, that there's never been more of a shameless public figure than the president. And it's very hard to compete against shamelessness, but we still need to do it. And one of the ways we do that is tackling mis and disinformation. That's why the Democratic Party needs to start doing their own national town halls. Since some Republican elected officials won't do it, that's an opportunity for the Democratic Party.
Man, Rich, I've been saying that for weeks now, where there's an opening. If a Republican elected official isn't going to show up to do a town hall, then the Democrats should step into that void right now. And ALC spoke loudly to that last Friday, that she's ready to go. And we've got some information we're going to talk about later this week. Stefania, take a moment, and again, welcome to the show. Rich and I got off on our direction. I don't want to leave you just there going, guys, I have something to say. But so my apologies there. But Stefania, take a moment, take a few moments, and share with us your journey in and the out and where you are now.
So I do want to pick up on something that you both discussed, and that was manipulation. You said, are there some underpinnings in MAGA followers that we can look to? And although I share all of the sentiments that Rich has detailed, that is why I am a part of this organization, because I feel it is so important for people to realize that the divisiveness is created by design to keep us separated, and that the only way we are going to find common ground is to actively seek it out. And that is what I think is so important about leaving MAGA. But back to the manipulation. So I was a member of the Evangelical Church beginning in 2014. And at that time, Trump was not a figure in the church. And it wasn't until about 2016, of course, when he really hit the scene in the church. And by 2017, I was unbeknownst to me, I had been fully indoctrinated into Christian nationalism. And the essence of that is that our churches were collectively teaching us that this was a Christian nation under attack by Satan, and that abortion and gay marriage were cursing the land, and that Donald Trump had been chosen by God to save America. And by 2017, that was a fully cemented idea within the church, and that is why it is my firm belief that that is where MAGA was truly born, and that is where the core of it is burning. That's where the lifeblood is. And so in 2021, after COVID and after a series of events, I left my church when I finally realized that it no longer represented the love of Jesus. Not after COVID, not after George Floyd. We realized it was no longer a safe space for our family, and we left. And leaving gave me the space, gave my husband, gave us, our family, the space to realize just how deeply we had been lied to and manipulated. And so today, I am still a Christian. I practice my Christianity, however, more authentically, with Jesus-like empathy and love that MAGA anti-Christ leaders like Elon Musk and Donald Trump openly declare to be a weakness. So like Jesus flipped the tables in the temple, I am standing here flipping the narrative of MAGA in the church, because those two things are mutually exclusive.
Wow. That, Stefania, is an extraordinarily powerful statement, because a lot of people won't go there. They won't talk about their faith and how their faith was abrupted and interrupted by MAGA and has taken hold. A lot of people don't want to go there because they're worried. And I have to ask you this question. They're worried that if they step up and talk about how this is not of, fill in the void, Christ, of Allah, of Buddha, of spirituality, if you don't even want to go down the road of a specific, Christianity, as it were, it has become hard and harder, because you said it's rooted now in the church. So talk a little bit more about that experience and how that made you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband had been training to be a pastor in the church. As I said, we became saved and entered the church in 2014. My husband was from a long line of pastors. His grandmother and grandfather were both pastors in East Detroit, Michigan. His father, Sal Messina, was a prison minister in Detroit until he passed away in 1998. And my family was long entrenched in the Evangelical Church. And so that was a place where, when we entered into, we felt very safe and we felt very accepted, especially as a family. We have 5 young boys. While ranging in age from 6 to 19. And so the church offers this space that does feel safe in a modern America where there are very few free and safe third spaces. And the church is kind of one of those last existing places in America. And we were all in. We became leadership. Again, my husband was training to be a pastor. I, a pastor's wife. I led children's church. I homeschooled my children for 4 years pre-COVID. As I said, I was all in. It was our entire lives. And when we walked away, we were fully ostracized. So a life that we had built, a community that we had built for nearly 7 years, when we walked away, no one followed. And we spent 3 years deconstructing and rebuilding our lives on our own. And it was an incredibly dark and difficult time. And that is why when I met Rich And I learned about Leaving MAGA, why I had to become involved with the organization, because it doesn't have to be a 3-year walk in the darkness. It can be aided by other people, such as myself, who've been through this, because unfortunately, in my opinion, the American church is no longer a safe place for families. They refuse to take stock of what is wrong, and instead they continue to point the finger outside at the transgender community, at the gay community. And it is something that no Jesus-loving Christian should stand for, because it is the absolute opposite of the spirit of Jesus to seek to harm others. And
yeah, that's
my
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Stefania. Finish your point.
No. I just want to say that my message is especially for white women in the church, and I just beg you to, I'm sure you put your children first and that you believe in supporting Trump, that you are. I believe that at one time as well. But the stark reality of things is, while he, in the Oval Office, blames the transgender community for all of the woes that are collectively occurring with our children, he fails to address the biggest issue. I have 4 children in public school, and I hear nothing being done about this epidemic of gun violence that is now the #1 mortality rate. And so when I look at the faces of my children, I will do anything to protect them. And so supporting Donald Trump, Elon Musk, this MAGA movement does nothing for our children in reality. What they tell us it's doing, that's the manipulation. Those are the lies. And you have to step away from the echo chamber that is MAGA. You have to step away in order to be able to realize that. And so that is what Leaving MAGA is asking. Just step away and take a look at this stuff, and maybe you can see that you have been manipulated. It's not, like Rich said, necessarily that these are bad people, but they're people who are likely damaged from trauma or just from being lied and manipulated to, and there is a safe place where they can go and seek this information, and that's leavingmaga.org.
Well, I will say this, and Rich, before we come back to you, Stefania, one of the things that I think is incredibly important, which is why my instincts to jump in and ask you a question, Stefania, is that people need what you just said. Now, I know the Dems got work to do, and we can talk about that all day long. And so that's not the point here. They got a lot of work to do to make sure things are better in terms of messaging and all that, like I talked about in the earlier part of the show. But what you just said is so incredibly important for people to hear. And we're probably going to create some sort of a segment so that people who are listening to our show can take your message, Stefania, and pass it on to the people and their families, coming back to what Rich just said, that don't have a bridge. Where do they go? What do I do? I'm trying to leave this place, but I don't know where I'm going to go. If I leave, where do I do? And that's why I feel it's important to have you guys on, because, yes, I can throw all kinds of darts at the MAGA thought process and belief. And I know that people have been hoodwinked and people have been, taken in and twisted and manipulated, to your point. It does help tremendously when there is a person who was there that can speak about their journey from where they were. And both of you guys have a different word, different meanings, but at the end of the day, it's still the same end result. And your journey away from it to something better. And Stefania, I applaud your guts for calling out a specific group of people, and I'm unapologetically going to say this, but specifically calling out white women in America, because that voting block ultimately is the voting block that got us Donald Trump 2.0.
Yes.
And
I could not
tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And the irony is, they know not what they do, and I don't want to act as if I am, helping to be over empathetic to the group that I identify with. Right? That's not what I seek to do. But I believe that empathy cannot be selective. And so if we on the left are going to have this dialogue, and we don't want to have empathy for the people that are in MAGA, which is what I mainly see, and it's understandable. It's especially understandable when you are in those minority groups that are being oppressed, okay? But what I'm saying is, I can see the struggle and I can understand what it is that keeps them in the trenches of MAGA. And the goal is to turn the needle and to get as many people out, I guess you could say, as possible, because that's the strength that Donald Trump has. He still has strength in numbers, and he shouldn't, because those people, the women like me, are actively voting against their own interests and the interests of their children every day, and that breaks my heart. And it breaks my heart that I ever cast my vote to support what is going on today. I'm grateful I only did it once, but it was one time too many, and if I can help prevent it from happening that third time that MAGA is hoping to get in there, I will do my part. And as you said, yes, we all want to make amends. Any of us who have come out have that same shame, and that's what shame is for. It's supposed to drive you to change. It shouldn't be something we shy away from. It should be something we face and do something about, and just speaks to right the wrongs as they've shown themselves to us.
Yeah. Stefania, your voice is powerful in this space, and I appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And to have the guts to speak the truth, what you thought was truth, that wasn't, that was a lie and manipulation, to the journey to where you are speaking the truth unapologetically. I can feel that you're apologetic about where you are right now and what you've learned and what the real truth is. So big ups to you for that. Rich, wrap us up a little bit again, how folks can find the organization and what's in your heart right now.
Well, thank you. Everyone can visit us at leavingmaga.org, and we've got all of our media, our socials. We've got our ebook I mentioned there, and also everyone can read an in-depth testimonial Stefania gave, along with a video conversation she and I had. And I just want to recognize the intrepidity that it takes for what she's done. And last time I was here, we were joined by Courtney Ray. So when I think about Stefania and Courtney, I believe they embody the strong woman who broke free from MAGA. And I think in Stefania's case, there's a particular credibility she has with people of faith. She went through a crisis of faith herself. And what that credibility does is it gives her authority to show that those of us here at Leaving MAGA, we are not anti-faith. We are not seeking to abridge anyone's right to freely worship. And it's why we actually use a lot of religious imagery. And with Stefania, she had her own road to Damascus moment where the scales fell from her eyes. And what I will say to listeners is that this is going to be a grind. It's going to be grueling and arduous, but to quote the book of Isaiah, we're going to bring good news to the afflicted. And to quote the book of Romans, we're going to be patient in our affliction. And I say that as an excommunicated Catholic. My wife doesn't like that joke, but I say it as...
Rich, you are. I'm sorry, man. You aren't alone in that space. There's a number of excommunicated folks of religion, but they've maintained their faith and their spirituality. And I would say that there's probably more people like that, and that are leaning into their faith and leaning into their spirituality, and not a singular religious group. And what's happened with that, and you guys both have probably experienced is that there's a bigger, more open conversation when people can lean into faith and spirituality than a singular religious group. And that's what I'm hearing from both of you. So I thank you both for being with us. And I thank you for the organization, Rich, that you founded, and Stefania for your courage to speak out and keep fighting in this space. We got you. We know it's tough, and part of my responsibility is to bring the tough but the good to what we do with our show. So it's a joy to have you both with us again, and I know you guys will be back with us again in the month of April if we got things on point. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll be back, and I'm also happy to have accompanying me others who have left. And again, I just want to recognize Stefania's bravery in doing what she's done and continuing to lead in our organization. Again, people can find us at leavingmaga.org. And as always, Richard, it was a pleasure being with you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rich Logis, and thanks, Stefania Messina for being with us this morning. You guys have a great day and a successful week, okay?
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. Bye now. Hey, guys, look, what can I tell you? Most of us haven't been where they were, and part of our job is to help them get to where we want them to get to. I heard one of the things that she kind of snuck in, but not intentionally, but she did say something that I think is important. Those of us on the left, in case you didn't hear that. So when I've said before that one of our challenges as progressives is to keep our fight moving forward, to stay locked into what we have to do. And along the way, we're going to have to slow the train down every now and again and reach out to some people who were willing to get on the train, admit that they made a mistake, and basically account for it by saying, I will do what I have to do to make sure that this is righted. That, to me, is someone that's gone the full mile. So, and speaking of going the full mile, we've gone right up to the end of the show. Guys who called in hell, I apologize. We had guests back to back. You know where to find us. Reach us tomorrow. We will be here, obviously, for you. But for now, it's the end of the show. Great to be with you. And as always, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.